Ever feel like you're just totally slammed? Like there's no way you have time to hit the gym and actually make any progress.
Yeah, I think everybody feels that way sometimes.
Right. But that drive to feel strong, to see those
Well,
fitness gains, it never really goes away, does it?
it's always kind of there, lurking in the back of your mind.
Exactly. And then you hear about these super quick workouts that supposedly get you ripped or whatever.
Right.
And part of you is like, come on, there's no way that's actually going to work.
Yeah, totally.
Well, today we're diving into a training method that just might flip that whole perception on its head. We're talking about power circuits.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so the question we're exploring is, can you really string exercises together and end up with like a hardcore, seriously effective way to build strength and power, and do it all without spending hours and hours in the gym?
Okay, I'm intrigued. So where are we getting all this from?
Well, this deep dive is going to focus on something called vertical training.
Vertical training.
Okay. Yeah, and it often gets implemented as power circuits. And our main source for this is a strength and conditioning coach named Christian Thibaudeau.
Thibaudeau. Okay.
Yeah. You familiar with his work at all?
The name rings a bell, but I'm not super familiar with him.
So one of the things that makes Thibaudeau so interesting is that he's worked with all kinds of elite athletes, people at the very top of their game.
Like what kind of athletes are we talking about?
We're talking about strength athletes, folks focused on pure power, endurance, even balance. He's really seen it all, which gives him this really unique perspective on what actually gets results.
I see. So he's not just some gym bro. He's actually worked with like the best of the best in a bunch of different disciplines.
Exactly. And on top of all that experience, he's got the academic background to back it up. He's deep into exercise science.
Gotcha. So it's not just like anecdotal bro science.
Not at all. So the big question we're tackling here, especially for anyone listening who's trying to squeeze the most out of their training time, is this. Can circuit training, the kind of thing many people think of as like a lighter, easier workout, can it actually be a super productive way to build serious strength and power?
Yeah, that's a great question because I think most people associate circuit training with like beginners or people who are just getting back into working out.
Right, like long, slow circuits on those resistance machines.
Totally. I mean, Thibaudeau even mentions this. He talks about those old school images. What does he call it? Like Nautilus machines, pink headbands, and Richard Simmons?
Yeah, exactly. It's often seen as the entry-level, low-intensity kind of training. But Thibaudeau argues that when you do it right, circuit training can be, quote, quite hardcore, and, quote, one of the most productive methods out there. And that includes for people who are already pretty advanced in their training.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yeah.
So let's break it down. What exactly is circuit training in this context, this vertical training? And how is it different from the way most people structure their workouts?
Okay, so Thibaudeau makes this clear distinction between what he calls horizontal training and vertical training.
Okay, horizontal and vertical. I like that.
Yeah, so horizontal training, that's what most people are familiar with. You do all your sets of one exercise before moving on to the next.
So like you do your 3 sets of squats, rest in between each set, and then move on to bench press.
Exactly. You're focusing on one exercise at a time.
Makes sense. So then vertical training must be.
Well, in vertical training, instead of knocking out all your sets for a single exercise, you just do one set.
Okay,
And then you immediately move on to the next exercise in the circuit.
gotcha. So you're flowing from one exercise to the next with like shorter breaks in between.
Exactly. And once you've done one set of every single exercise in the circuit, that's considered one round.
Okay, I'm with you so far. One set of each, that's a round, and then you repeat the whole thing.
Right. And you're not resting for as long as you would between sets of the same exercise. You get your rest after you've done the whole circuit.
Makes sense. But what's the big deal? Why does Thibaudeau think this vertical approach is so much better, especially for building strength and power efficiently?
So one of the biggest things he points to is something he calls reduced localized fatigue and enhanced performance.
Reduced localized fatigue, okay.
Yeah, so think about it this way. In horizontal training, if you're resting, say, a minute and a half between sets of squats,
Right.
those same leg muscles are only getting that short break before they're hit again.
Yeah, that's typical.
But now imagine you've got a 5-exercise circuit. You're still taking 90 seconds rest after each exercise, but by the time you get back to squats, those leg muscles have had way longer to recover.
Yeah, like several minutes instead of just 90 seconds. I get it.
Right. And that longer recovery time means those muscles can replenish their energy stores more fully.
So they're not as wiped out each time you get back to them.
Exactly. And that means you can perform at a higher level each time you come back to that exercise in the circuit.
Interesting. So basically, you're keeping the fatigue down for specific muscle groups so you can hit them harder every time.
Exactly. And by keeping that localized fatigue down, it also means you're putting less strain on your nervous system. And this can lead to better motor unit innervation.
Motor unit innervation, that's a fancy way of saying.
It basically means you can recruit more muscle fibers more effectively, leading to better gains over time.
Okay, so you're getting stronger and building muscle more efficiently by giving those specific muscles a chance to catch their breath between sets.
Precisely. And while you'll still feel that overall fatigue from the entire workout, those muscles you're targeting are going to be fresher and able to perform at a higher level.
That's pretty cool. So it's not just about getting a good workout overall, but about managing fatigue in a way that lets you really push those individual muscle groups.
Yeah, and you're getting that added bonus of a general conditioning effect too. But the main focus is on maintaining high output during those sets.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's one of the big benefits. What else does Thibaudeau highlight?
Oh, well, he also talks about the fun factor.
The fun factor.
Really? Yeah. Doing multiple sets of the same exercise over and over can get kind of boring, right?
Oh, for sure.
But with vertical training, you're constantly switching it up. You're moving from one exercise to the next, and that variety can really keep things interesting.
I can see that. It's like, even if you're working just as hard or even harder, it doesn't feel as much like a grind.
Exactly. That novelty can be a huge motivator for a lot of people.
Okay, so vertical training. Less boring, more efficient. Anything else?
Yeah, Thibaudeau also talks about the general conditioning effect.
General conditioning, okay.
Right. So because you're keeping those rest intervals relatively short between exercises in the circuit, you're not just challenging your muscles, you're also pushing your strength endurance and even your cardiovascular system.
Oh, right. It's like you're building in a little bit of cardio without even realizing it.
Pretty much. And that increased metabolic demand can also help with fat loss.
So you're getting like a more well-rounded workout, hitting multiple fitness goals at once.
Exactly. It's a really efficient approach for anyone who wants to kind of cover all their bases.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see the appeal of this vertical training thing.
And to get into the specifics, Thibaudeau introduces what he calls the Thibaudeau power circuit.
Okay, so this is where things get real practical.
Exactly. This particular circuit is designed for anyone who's serious about building strength and power quickly.
Gotcha. So he's talking to athletes, people who really want to maximize their results and don't have a lot of time to waste.
Right. And he lays out some specific guidelines. For example, he says you should rest for 60 seconds after each exercise in the circuit.
60 seconds, okay. And how many exercises are we talking about?
There are 6 exercises in the circuit.
6. Wow. That's a pretty comprehensive workout.
Yeah.
And how many times do you repeat the whole circuit?
He recommends repeating it anywhere from 3 to 8 times per training session.
3 to 8. Wow, that's a big range. So like a shorter workout would be 3 rounds and a longer one would be 8 rounds.
That's right. Okay, so let's go through each exercise in the circuit. First up is the Romanian deadlift.
The RDL classic. So how does Thibaudeau describe it?
Well, he emphasizes that it's primarily a hip hinge movement.
Hip hinge, okay. So we're talking glutes, hamstrings, all that good stuff.
Right. So you start standing upright with the barbell,
Okay.
and then you hinge at your hips, keeping a slight bend in your knees.
Gotcha. So you're lowering the bar down towards the floor, keeping your back straight.
Exactly. You lower it until you feel a good stretch in your hamstrings and glutes, and then you drive back up, squeezing those muscles.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. What's next?
Next up is the bench press.
The bench press. Do we really need to break that one down?
Thibaudeau jokes that most people probably know how to do a bench press.
Fair enough. What's number 3?
Number 3 is the power snatch.
Okay, now things are getting a little more complex. This is a big power move.
For sure. It requires a lot of coordination and explosiveness.
For those who might not be familiar, could you walk us through the power snatch?
Absolutely. So the starting position is with your feet about hip width apart, toes slightly pointed out.
Okay.
Your knees are bent, your back is straight, and your shoulders are over the bar.
Okay.
And you want to make sure your arms are straight, traps stretched, and eyes looking forward.
Okay. Got the starting position. What next?
The lift itself has two phases. First, you pull the bar from the floor to about knee level.
Okay.
This part should be controlled, using mostly your legs to drive the bar up.
Gotcha. So it's not just yanking it off the ground.
Nope, you got to maintain that control. Then, as the bar passes your knees, you transition into the second phase.
Okay.
This is where the explosiveness comes in. You rapidly extend your legs and back, keeping the bar close to your body, and you shrug your traps powerfully to get the bar moving upward.
So you're almost jumping, using that momentum to get the bar overhead.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you want to catch the bar overhead in a partial squat with your arms locked out.
So it's a full body movement using legs, back, and traps.
Absolutely. And Thibaudeau also mentions a variation called the power snatch from blocks.
From blocks, what does that mean?
It means you start with the bar elevated on blocks instead of the floor. This makes the initial pull a little easier.
Okay, so it's a good option for people who are still learning the movement.
Right. Okay. After the power snatch, we have the push jerk.
The push jerk,
Right.
another power move.
You bet. So you start with the bar across your upper chest and shoulders.
Okay,
And you can use either a clean grip or a slightly narrower grip.
gotcha.
Make sure your elbows are pointing forward and down and your core is tight.
Core tight, got it. Then what?
Then you do a quick dip, like a quarter squat.
A dip?
Yep, and then you explode upward, driving with your legs and pressing the bar overhead.
So it's like a combination of a squat and an overhead press.
You could say that. And you want to catch the bar overhead with your arms locked out, landing in a slight squat.
Okay, so you're using your legs to help you press the weight overhead. Makes sense.
Right. So we've got the Romanian deadlift, bench press, power snatch, push jerk.
Right. Sounds intense already. What are the last two exercises in this circuit?
Next up is the jump squat.
Jump squat. Okay.
So you start with the bar across your back like you're going to do a regular squat.
Right.
But instead of just standing up, you explode up into a jump.
Oh, I see. So you're adding a plyometric element to the squat.
Exactly. Land softly. Absorb the impact with bent knees.
Plyometrics. Gotta love them.
And the final exercise in the circuit is plyo push-ups.
Plyo push-ups. I'm guessing these are not your grandma's push-ups.
Definitely not. So these are basically explosive push-ups where you push off the ground with enough force to get some air time.
Oh, wow. Like clapping push-ups, but even more explosive.
That's the idea. And as soon as you land, you immediately push back up again.
So it's all about that rapid rebound.
Thibaudeau even says to imagine the floor is lava to really emphasize that quick turnaround.
Love that imagery. Okay, so this circuit really does cover all the bases, doesn't it? It's got strength, power, plyometrics, and it works your whole body.
It really does. And remember, you're doing this whole thing 3 to 8 times per workout.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
But Thibaudeau has a specific plan for how to approach that volume. He recommends a 4-week cycle.
Oh, interesting. A structured approach. I like it.
So week 1, you do the entire circuit 4 times. Week 2, you bump it up to 8 times.
Okay.
Week 3, you bring it back down to 5 times.
Bit of a deload.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then week 4, you do only 3 circuits, but you increase the weight on all the barbell exercises by 5 to 10%.
Oh, I see. So you're gradually increasing the volume, then you deload a bit, and then you crank up the intensity.
Precisely. Makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. So where does this power circuit fit into someone's overall training routine?
So Thibaudeau says it can be done once a week as part of a larger training program, maybe as a dedicated power day. But if someone's really pressed for time or really focused on strength and power, they can do it 3 times a week as their main workout.
So it can be a standalone workout or part of a bigger program? Pretty versatile.
Exactly. And how long does a typical power circuit workout take?
Well, it obviously depends on how many circuits you do. If you're doing 3, it might only take about 25 minutes. But if you're doing 8, it could be closer to 70 minutes.
And somewhere in the middle is probably most common, right?
Yeah, probably around 40 minutes on average.
So not a huge time commitment for a really effective workout.
Right. So what about results? What can people expect if they actually give this thing a try?
Well, Thibaudeau is pretty confident about the outcomes. He claims that this approach can lead to unparalleled gains in whole body power.
Unparalleled, huh? Bold claim.
He doesn't hold back. And beyond that, you can expect increases in strength, muscle mass, and even improvements in body composition.
So you're getting stronger, building muscle, and leaning out all at the same time.
That's the idea. And you're also getting a nice boost to your overall conditioning.
So for anyone listening who's juggling a busy life and still wants to make serious progress in their fitness, this vertical training method, especially these power circuits, seems like a really interesting option.
Absolutely. It's all about maximizing the quality of each set by managing fatigue strategically. And it really challenges those common assumptions about circuit training.
Yeah, it's not just for beginners anymore. It can be a really effective method for anyone who's serious about their training, even advanced athletes.
And for you, the learner, we hope this deep dive has given you some new ideas about how to structure your workouts and achieve your fitness goals, maybe even sparked a few aha moments.
Yeah, and we know that some of these exercises, like the power snatch, can be pretty technical.
For sure.
So if you're interested in trying this out, definitely seek out some videos or get some coaching to make sure you're doing the movements correctly.
Absolutely. Safety first.
Always. And this brings up an interesting question for you to think about. Considering how much this circuit covers in a relatively short amount of time, could incorporating a power circuit like this be the key to unlocking a whole new level of athleticism for you?
That's a good question. If the key to progress really is about maximizing your output while minimizing that localized muscle fatigue, how could you adapt this vertical training approach to other parts of your workout routine?
Food for thought.
Definitely something to consider.
I think we've given everyone a lot to chew on today.
We have. Until next time, keep learning and keep pushing those boundaries.
And remember, the best workout is the one you actually do.
Couldn't agree more.